Hey guys, welcome back. We're still working on Stavros' Evo transformation here. If you haven't seen what we've been doing lately on this car, definitely encourage you to check back on our previous videos so you can catch up. We're ultimately doing an entire transformation on this car, going from a basic FP green bolt-on style setup to the largest bolt-on style setup that you can have through Force Performance or Zona Rotor for that matter, which is the FP0. The reason he's jumping up to that is because he saw us running with this setup last year and ultimately thought it was perfect for what he was trying to do and wants us to duplicate that for him on this car. So we've got our stock location Hochman Fabrication and Speed turbo manifold with the FP0 on it from Zona Rotor. We're going to be running a Tile MVS 38mm wastegate, which bolts right onto that turbine housing. And we're getting ready to now move on to the cooling system. And as you can see, I'm working on just snapping on the bumper here, which we've now fitted around the ETS intercooler core. We're just waiting on the JMF billet intake manifold before we can do the driver side. So in the meantime, in order to finish up the cooling lines that we're building on the radiator setup, which are now AN, we have to remove, or would like to just go ahead and remove the factory intake manifold, get that out of our way, and then we're going to move on to installing this new custom Hochman Fabrication and Speed rear water pipe, which now has AN fittings for the turbo connections and the radiator, and pops right into the OEM water pump. So just getting this bumper on here so that as we're working, we're not going to damage the intercooler or anything of that nature just by leaning on things, which tends to happen here and there, and we'll move forward on the project. So join us as we move forward, and want to encourage all of you guys to hit like on this video if you do enjoy it, and if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe and hit notifications so that you're made aware as soon as we do post new videos. But in the meantime, here we go. At this point, we're getting ready to do the turbo downpipe. We've got a new FP0 on here, and now it's time to start plumbing this thing now that the water lines, the oil feed and return have been put together. It's time to start plumbing the rest of this stuff. We'll do the hot parts kit, do the wastegate dump. We've got a brand new Tile MVS wastegate, which at the customer's request is, yes, believe it or not, it's purple. Super excited. Love you, Stavros. Anyway, this thing's gonna go on the back side of the turbine housing, and then we'll build a dump for this as well after we do the downpipe. Still need to reach out to my friend Stavros here and see whether he wants a hood dump or if he wants me to point it downward. But the reason it's purple, or almost pinkish in my eye, but purple, is because he's got a purple blow-off valve that this is gonna match. apparently there's a plan for the color theme on this one, and I'm putting faith in him that he's got a good plan. So let's get going. Clean. I like the tolerances and the clearances on this thing. We've still got to do some mounts, at least one bracket or one hanger. I don't like putting too many hangers on, it's just extra weight, especially for a race car. And then we've got to do an O2 sensor here. We'll probably end up moving the one that's back there over here, so that's in a better location. But now that this is put together, I think we're gonna go ahead and install the wastegate and do the dump, so that we have that in place and we can fit the O2 sensors in the right spot without any clearances, and then we'll go ahead and do the hanger. But so far everything's connecting very nicely, and also I'm happy with the path that it's taking. It's very straight, less bends, less loss of energy, more power, more speed. It's bee season. What's up, brother? You want something fast? You're in the right spot. Nitrous kit? Turbo kit? What do you want? Hello. Save the bees. See you later, pal. Alright. Welding helmet, my welding prep materials out of the way. A little bit of Duncan. Duncan could use a sponsorship. Get our tile wastegate. Love our friends at Tile. He had to have purple. Behold, the rarest color of them all. All right. We will still need to put a spring in this thing, but for right now, I just want to do mock-up. Mock-up. We typically don't run water through our wastegates because it's nothing that we require being drag racers. It's typically more of a road race application need. So those will go in here. We do want to plumb all of our air lines, however. I do believe in here we do have a couple of plugs which we're going to need to insert later on. So we will keep these This one right here happens to be the seal for the wastegate. Believe it or not, people see this thing loose in there and they grab it and they go, okay, let's put together our wastegate dump, and they weld on the seal onto the dump. Believe it or not, I've actually done that myself. It's just a mistake that tends to happen, and I just had to buy another one and fix that problem. A little bit embarrassing, a little bit frustrating, but it's a quick and easy fix nonetheless. They're pretty helpful with keeping this inserted in here so that when you open it up, it's actually inside of here. It's usually got a piece of tape on it, and then you know that it's supposed to be with the wastegate. And the pieces that you're supposed to weld on are within the clamps themselves. So you've got your dump clamp, and then the larger one and flange is for the wastegate connection to either the turbine housing. In this case, we're using that. Or if you needed to build an outlet into your collector, for instance, you would use this provided flange. But since this application has already a flange built onto the turbine housing, we do not need that anymore. And I'm going to put this one in the center here so I know that's the seal. We can go ahead and begin mock-up by installing this guy now. These are mine, not yours. My spare pieces. More quality materials from our friends at FDR Fab. Thanks, Tommy. Keep killing it, buddy. You gotta have quality materials to make quality components. And I can promise you that we don't deal with anything but quality here. Shopping. Let's do these. See how clean that looks now? It's right up against the hot pipe over here, away from the radiator. And it's actually a pretty good length too that I'm looking at now. I may trim it just a little bit and maybe on an angle so that it's like shooting backwards. Putting these together so that the one that I'm about to weld won't warp. I've got this spare flange in my welding box just for that reason. Mocking up the wastegate dump to see where it's located and where I'm going to have it. And I've moved some stuff out of the way, like the radiator and the turbo outlet, so that I can work a little bit more easily with it. And I want to figure out placement for my O2 sensors. I'm thinking, based on where I have everything set up, that I'm probably going to end up putting them right about over here in this region, which is pretty common for this car's application when guys build downpipes, and the ones that are on the production market, they're pretty much in that same location. So I don't think I'll have any clearance issues by doing it that way. I just want to make sure it's really the case. Done with these, we will be able to go ahead and do our mounts, our hanger for that matter, which I like to do on car. Look at that clearance, perfect clearance. this thing to cool down. We'll put it back on the car and do the hanger that's gonna be just before the V-band clamp, which will keep it nice and tidy as well as rigid. And then downpipe's done. We've set this thing up to about 18 and some change PSI with the correct selected springs. So right now, if I wanted to test it out, I could put like 50 PSI through this thing. And this thing will open. So we know that the springs are in there correctly and it's not binding up. Let's see it a little easier. It helps if you have the right amount of boost through it in order to It's still too little. Much. Just enough. No more, and it'll open all the way. Going over to my Bosch box here. It's gonna help me too. Clean my lights. All right, we just finished up the downpipe stuff and also the dump tube, which needs a little cleaning because it's got some fingerprints on it. What's up with that? And it's just loose in here. We set it up with the wastegate springs. We're getting ready to pull this all apart because we're gonna have to pull the drive shaft and the transfer case and the exhaust system in order to, well, at least just the midsection, to get the transmission and transfer case out so that we can swap it over to a 5-speed. But just wanted to share with you guys how this all came out. Put a little tag on this thing. It's kind of hard to see in certain light. This may or may not help make it easy. But nonetheless, this car is cruising along. And one of the items that we were waiting for just happened to show up when we were finishing this up. What do we got here? This looks like a nice dipstick. What is that for? By the way, I definitely do approve. This is quality fabrication. One of the last pieces of the puzzle here. JMF billet intake manifold. It's only got the four injector setup on it, in case you're wondering, because he's gone with 2600 injectors, the ID 2600s, which is what's on my car currently. And if you've been watching the channel, Jason and his blue Evo Mr. Boost are also running this manifold and those injectors. So it's a proven combination that works well. You will see us install this on the next episode. So be sure to join us, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Make sure to hit notifications if you want to know when this video goes live. Other than that, catch you guys later.